Hi, lovelies. My name is Sue. I'm from gravetales.com, and this is day 29, because it's August 30th, 29 of my Facebook Live challenge. There's dogs running around. The camera's going to be a little unsteady. I only have one more day left, guys. One more. I thought I had a couple. I thought I had like 3 or 4, but no, tomorrow is the last day. I'm kind of relieved and also a little sad. I mean, it's not like I can't keep doing it, right? But the impetus won't be there anymore. So yeah, I don't know how I feel. Mixed emotions about that. But today, I've said this before, literally, I am running out of things to talk about. And the last time I said that, I tied scarves for 30 minutes. And you guys seem to really enjoy that. So this time, I'm going to do something a little different because I was doing laundry today, and I found these socks. I think these came from Charming Charlie. I'm pretty sure they did. My friend found them and was like, you have to get these. So I wear them, but of course nobody sees them and brings me glasses of wine because that would be way too easy. So today I'm going to show you how to taste wine, which means I'm going to taste wine. I'm going to drink wine. Yeah. It's really not that hard. And I think that's part of why I wanted to do this, is because people think of wine tasting, or they think of California wine country and they think glamour and romance and sophistication. Yeah, it's just wine. It's fermented grapes, guys. It's an alcohol. It's something that you enjoy. It's just like any other liqueur or beer or whatever it is that you're into. So for me, I'm into wine. I've been drinking it for probably 12 years. Seriously, by seriously, I mean like trying to understand the nuances and taste the different flavors and learn what I can about how it's made and how the terrain makes different, tastes within the grapes and which grapes grow in what regions. But you don't need to know any of that to just taste the wine. I mean, really, tasting is about finding something that you like, right? So I thought I would just walk you through some basic tasting steps. And that's it. If I'm going to have to look off to the side to see comments, so if you want to leave me a comment and you're live with me, please feel free to. I might not see it immediately, but I promise I will respond as soon as I can, even if it's after the video. So you guys, comment all you want. Okay. What was my first thing? I have a list of things I wanted to go through so I didn't miss something. Oh, and I should just clarify, I'm not an expert by any means. Like, I am not a wine expert. So if you go on YouTube and you find videos about how somebody else does this or how some sommelier does this, maybe you should trust them. I don't know. It's up to you, right? But as far as I'm concerned, wine is there's too much hubbub around it. It's too fancy. It's just fermented grapes. Yes, some of them are very complex and old, and that's great because there are people who are skilled at that, right? But you shouldn't be afraid of it. You should be able to walk into the supermarket and think, I'm going to try this bottle of wine. And if I don't like it, that's okay, because I didn't pay an arm and a leg for it. That's another thing I want to talk about later, is wine prices, because you don't have to pay a lot for good wine. Okay, so let's do the tasting. So I have a multitude of glasses here. I'm not going to show you all of them right now because I want to actually get to the wine, but I'm going to show you glasses and why you might use different glasses or why it might not matter after I start doing the tasting. And I also have some little aids. So as you're doing a tasting, there's these little placemats. And I got these from Folly. I think it's winefolly.com. It's the people who, winefolly.com, who makes this book, which is a fantastic beginner book. This is a blank copy of it. And then if you filled it out, it sort of looks like this. It's backwards today. It's weird. I can't even get it straight. Oh my God. And you'll notice if you pause that and you look at it, these things aren't fancy. Like the things I wrote, they're not fancy. It's just whatever popped into my head. Okay, so let's do a tasting. All right, so I have this Pinot Noir from Portugal. Actually, no, this is not a Pinot Noir. This is just a red blend. I don't know what's in it, but it doesn't matter, right? Okay, so when you're doing a tasting, you only want a little bit. You only want a little bit. I'm going to put this on the neck of my bottle so that when I spill, it doesn't get all over me. Okay, so when you're really into tasting wine, you look at it, you smell it, you swirl it, you taste it. There's like multiple steps here, right? So let's talk about the steps. So one of them is appearance. Now it's going to be really hard to do here because you usually want to have like a white sheet or a light background that you can look down through the wine into. So if I were to do that, not that you'll be able to see it, but I see sort of a light garnet color. I wouldn't say it's ruby red. I would say it's closer to a purple. And there's different terms for that, but it doesn't matter. What do you think it looks like, right? The color can tell you a lot about the grape, but if you're new to tasting, don't worry about that. Just look at it, sort of keep in your mind what it looked like and associate that with what it tastes like. Okay, next up, smell. Okay, I smelled it. Did I smell much? I didn't really smell much, right? I just sort of smelled wine. But if you really want to release the flavors, the nuance in the wine, you swirl it. Now, the best way to swirl is you can do this on a counter where you sort of like, you've seen people do this with a stem. They sort of like do it in circles. Yeah, I don't have a counter to do that. So I'm going to do this. This is why I didn't pour much wine in here, because I don't want it to fall out. So when someone gives you a full glass of wine, a full pour, you don't want to do this. You can do a tiny little swirl, but you're not going to get very much out of it. And if you really want to trap the scent inside, you can keep your hand over the top of it. It's kind of awkward, so I'm not going to do it. But just give it a nice, good swirl. Don't be afraid to swirl it around. I get a lot more off of that. So I get like bark, cherry, candied nuts. So I'm not really thinking about it. And it doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter what I smell. It tastes completely different. But what I smelled, what came into my brain when I took those sniffs were those phrases. Something else to know about when you're actually smelling is you can just use your nose. You can do it from the side, but it makes more sense to really, really get in there. Don't be afraid to put your entire face over the glass. Are you laughing yet? Yeah. And if the person who pours it looks at you funny, it doesn't matter. It's your wine. You should enjoy it the way you want to. Forget whatever their opinions you think they are passing, judgments they are passing. Those things don't matter. You smell. I haven't even tasted yet. You guys, I haven't even tasted the wine. I've only looked at it and smelled it. And that's part of the fun for me is I like to get as much out of each step as I can, because I like to challenge myself and see, like, can I figure out what this wine is? If I did a blind tasting, would I be able to identify this just based on smelling it and looking at it and then tasting it? Usually the answer is no, because the complexity of wines just is ridiculous. But welcome, Shannon. Thank you for joining me today. I'm doing a wine tasting. So basically, you just missed me pouring it, looking at it, and smelling it. Okay, so now that I've smelled it, and I don't really smell anything different than I did before, maybe a little bit of floral, I'm going to taste. So this is dry on my tongue, so it's a little tannic. That's just a quality of grape. You can look it up if you want to learn more about it. So it's drier. It's going to be a dry red, but it's not super dry. It's sort of like, and what I say is dry is it's sort of like, it made my tongue feel rough, sort of soaked into my tongue. If that makes sense. My taste buds are sort of feeling poppy right now. I do taste some plum, some like dark soil, I guess. It doesn't taste like dirt, but these are the terms that come to mind when I think about it. So I'm going to taste again. Notice what I did, and this isn't the most chic thing to do in the world, but I find it helps me get the nuance of the wine better, as I swished it around. And that's just aerating, and I'll talk about aerating a little bit later and why it matters. But when we were doing this, swirling, that's aerating too. It's just getting oxygen in between the wine molecules so you can release the scents and flavors of it. There's nothing wrong with it. You're going to drink it. It's not going to go bad in the glass. Okay, let's do another taste. Cedar, maybe? Some sort of like oak or some sort of wood. So maybe this was fermented in some sort of like a wooden cask. That's really common. Chardonnay is fermented in French oak, American oak. This isn't Chardonnay, this is a red. So if you missed it earlier, this is it's a Portugal red blend. I got this from Costco. It didn't cost that much. Shannon says, dirty wine? Or no, Laura says, dirty wine. There's no actual dirt in the wine, although sometimes you'll get a wine that's unfiltered and it will have what looks like dirt. It's sediment. It's just unfiltered. It's not a big deal. Some people prefer them. I don't like them because it's extra work. I have to filter that stuff out or I end up swallowing it, and it's just gritty, and I just don't like it. Shannon says she has a hard time with really dry wines and woodsy wines. Yeah, I do too. I first started drinking wine, I sort of went through phases. And the first, was it reds? No, when I first started getting into the whites, I drank Chardonnay. Okay, let me just be clear. I drank a lot of Chardonnay at a wedding and I got really drunk. That's how I discovered Chardonnay. I don't drink it anymore. I just drink it for a while. But I find that the really oaky ones, I'm just not a fan of for whatever reason. When I'm drinking white, I like a crisper white, which is something that it just sort of feels, I don't want to say effervescent because that's a whole different thing, but it just feels lighter on your tongue. It doesn't feel like that heavy, woody feeling, which will make sense if you drink one. So if you're not experienced in wine tasting, these are just things that you figure out or you decide for yourself. Again, don't be afraid, just do it. So when I started, what did I start with? Okay, so my path in wine was I started with super, super sweet wines like Gewürztraminer, and I can never remember the list of the ones that don't drink them anymore. Like the dessert wines. There is a red dessert wine that's really, really good. You keep it in the fridge. It's super sweet. Ice wines. Things that were like candy, basically. Tasted like candy. That's what I started with. And then gradually I moved into rosé. That didn't last long because rosé is hit or miss with me. And then I moved into, you guys are cracking me up. Oh, Prosecco. I'll talk about Prosecco in a minute. And then I moved over into the more drier whites. I liked those for a while, but they started giving me headaches. And then I was like, let me try reds. And then I started with the really common reds here, which is like Cabernet. Cabernet is like everywhere. You can't walk anywhere in Napa without hitting a Cabernet. So I basically just sort of made a trip through all of the different types of grape, and now I'm kind of come back around to Pinot Noir just because it's light-bodied and it's subtle and it can have a lot of complexity to it, and it usually has some sort of a spicy finish, which is just fun. Anyway, Chenin Blanc. Chenin Blanc is really nice and crisp. I totally agree. I like that one. Laura, why not give them a try? Why not? Why not? That is one of my sayings. In fact, I have all these, like, you can't see them from here, but I have all these wine decorations around me. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to finish this off because why not? Now, if I were doing a tasting and wanted to actually record and like pay attention to what I was doing so I could learn from it, I would fill this out. I'm going to try to fold this back so I can see. Sorry. Okay. Wow, this is really hard to do when it's not backwards. So you can see there's a way for you to look at the different aspects of it. You can even look at where it's from. Country, I can't see this backwards. Oh, region, and then details that you want to put in, fruit level, body. And then is it fruity, flowery, spicy, herby, earthy, other. It can be combinations of those things. And these little placemats, which are great for catching wine spills, it's printed out. It's just on paper. I got it from winefolly.com. I can put that link in here for you guys if you want it. They're really good for parties. If you just have some friends over and want to do a casual tasting night, these are fantastic. Great for people who are like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. How do you taste wine? It's pretty simple. It's a smiley face and a frowny face and a meh, 3 choices. Okay, so what's next? We did pour. I showed you how to pour. When you're doing a tasting, you only want to pour a little so you can swirl it. Then we talked about the swirl. Don't be afraid to be aggressive with the swirl. And don't let people tell you that swirling doesn't matter. Swirling matters. To me, it matters because I can smell and I can taste what's been released from getting the oxygen down in there. Let's see. Taste, swish it around a little bit if you want to get the extra pop. It doesn't look very chic, but I think it works. And when you're tasting, you want to go light to heavy. So you want to start with the bubblies. So like Prosecco, maybe like a Brut champagne, and then move your way through the crisp whites to maybe the oaky shards. Then you start with like a Pinot Noir, and you do the lighter reds, and you move to the heavier grapes like Petite Syrah. Might be one of the last ones that you tasted. And then you would go to the like ice wine or port or something super sweet, because once you get that far down, your palate is dead. You're not going to be able to taste nuance in something that's lighter. Also, in some places, when you taste wine, you don't actually drink it. You spit it back out. I don't subscribe to that rule because, as far as I'm concerned, drinking it's half the fun. And by the time you drink like 5 tastes of something, you're not tasting anything else anyway. It's just fun at that point. So, Laura, is it you saying it's lame that you spit it back out? My first experience with that was in France in 2000, I think, when we had gone on some study abroad trip. It was actually really fun. And we went down in the barrel room of one of these old wineries and did like a from the cask tasting. It was super cool. I think I have it somewhere, but they give you this like spittoon thing so you get your tasting and then you can spit in it and then you can pour it out in these like big things they have for collecting waste. But none of us did. I mean, like, 20-year-old Americans, we're not spitting that out. We're drinking that. Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of lame. But if you want to taste the wine and you don't want to get drunk or you don't want to get intoxicated, say you have to drive, but you actually want to taste it to see if maybe, say you're at Costco and they're doing a tasting and you want to taste to see if you might like it at home, but you got to drive home. That makes sense to do a traditional tasting where you just spit it out. So that's that. I'm checking your comments here. Okay, so Prosecco. I don't know what it is about Prosecco, but I just don't like it. I just don't like it. And maybe it's because I was a member of Gloria Ferrer for a while, and it's a winery that's pretty heavy into bubbles. They do a lot of bubbles. They do some Pinots and a few other reds, but typically bubbles is their thing. So they have a wide variety of bubbles, and they have everything from the sweets to the super dry. And I find that the more I drink it, the more I like the super dry ones because I can drink that with anything. The sweet ones, I can't really have that with like a steak or salmon. I mean, that just doesn't, like, it's a dessert thing, right? Or it's something you drink maybe before dinner, but then, I can't transition to a drier wine after that. And the more I drink these more, what I think of as sophisticated, I'm going to take some flack for that, I know, because I have friends that love Prosecco and they're wine snobs. But the more I drink some of these other ones, I just don't like Prosecco as much. So, but it's great for mixing with orange juice because when you put the orange juice in, you can't taste the nuance anyway. Okay, so what's the deal with pairing? How do I pair a wine? What does that even mean? Like, how do I know if it's going to taste good with something? You know what? I haven't figured that out either. I just try things, and if it tastes good, great. I'll do it again. If it doesn't, okay, I learned. Maybe I'll try something a little different. Use your intuition with that. But sometimes that you can find these great little pairing guides. This is a magnet I got from Windsor Winery, it looks like. And you probably can't see, I don't think it's focusing on there. But it's sort of a cross section. So you can see cheese, seafood, meat, and then all the different types. And it gives you recommendations on what you should eat together. So that's kind of cool. There's another winery called Bright Cellars. And they do a delivery service. They send you 4 bottles a month. And they have you take this sort of taste profile test that has nothing to do with wine. And they try to guess what things you might like. They're pretty good at it, actually. I was really happy with the service. It's 4 bottles a month. I think it's like $75 a month. It was a lot of wine. That's why I stopped doing it, because I just can't drink that much by myself. Ty doesn't drink. I can't drink that much. Especially if I was at one point I was in like 7 wine clubs. I had 100 bottles of wine sitting on my floor. It was over the top. Laura says she did the delivery thing. Which one did you do? And you also said red wine with red meat, white with chicken and fish. Yeah, that's a pretty simple guideline. But I would say, do whatever you think tastes good. If you want to drink, Chenin Blanc with your steak, maybe that's what works for your palate. I don't think that would work for me because the steak would probably overpower the Chenin Blanc, which is like a lighter wine. But I guess what I'm saying is look at what the recommendations are, like Google it. What do I drink with steak? What do I drink with salmon? What do I drink with whatever? And then try it and then do sort of some variation on that next time. See what works for you. You might find that your palate is different than what the norm is, what they're recommending for the norm. Oh, you did Bright Cellars too. Cool. So one really cool thing I liked about Bright Cellars is they have this cheese package. Like, did you do the cheese package, Laura? Sorry, animals everywhere. So anyway, it's 4 cheeses, 1 cheese match to each wine in your shipment. And I loved this so much. It was only $40. You only spent $10 per piece per cheese. And these cheeses were like full sizes of cheese. But I can't eat that much cheese in a month. And I still have cheese stored from when I was just like, I'm like cheese overflowing. And some of these cheeses were weird. Like one was cranberry white cheddar. No, I'm not going to eat a cranberry cheese. I don't like to mix sweets and savories. That's just like, I just don't. And I know it's weird, but that's my thing. So somebody maybe who likes sweeter things may like the cranberry one, but there were also some really good ones that they brought. I loved it. I finally had to stop doing it just because one, expense, and two, way too much product. But it was fun. Laura says the wine was all very good. Yeah, it was amazing how much you liked the wines they sent. Same. I was really impressed with that. There's another really good wine club. It's called Wine of the Month Club, and they're more flexible on how you can choose your wines, and those come from all over the world, which is really cool. I think the lowest package you can do is 2 bottles a month, but it's dirt cheap. It's like $15 or something. I mean, some of these bottles are like $5 bottles of wine, but they're really good. I'm going to put the links for these things for Bright Cellars, for Wine of the Month Club. I'll put them in here so you guys can check them out if you want. But those are the two that I really liked the most when I was still doing them. Now I buy wine from Costco because I can buy it when I want. I'm not on a schedule. And the prices are good, and they typically have good stuff. So, okay. So speaking of Bright Cellars, I've been holding these things you've probably seen. I can't even center things here. This is like, I'm having issues because this one's backwards to me, but not backwards to you. Now I know why Facebook has the cam flipping things, because it makes it easier. You can see yourself and you're like, oh, okay, I move my hand this way and it works this way. And it doesn't work that way when it's flipping it. So you can actually read things. Anyway, so this one came with one of my shipments from Bright Cellars, and it talks about how to chill. Like, what temperature should your wines be at? So reds, 60 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit, down to sparkling, which is 40 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's actually really handy so that you can get the most taste out of them. And also, you don't want to keep them at warm temperatures because they will go bad, like in the back of your car. Don't do that. Okay, wine stoppers. This is a really neat one too. Can I get it? Yeah, there we go. So there's corks. There's 2 different types of corks, natural and synthetic. And then there's screw caps. Screw caps have kind of a bad reputation because people think they're not very sophisticated. But they actually hold your wine as well as a cork does. And like, you can turn the bottle upside down after it's been opened. It's not going to spill. The cork's not going to pop out. They're pretty safe. I mean, if you're drinking wine just because you want to drink it and you're not cellaring it, I don't really think cork matters. Synthetic is fine. In fact, there's a really cool tool. Oh, what is it called? I didn't write this down, so I can't remember. I'll have to put it in here. But there's a way you can open a bottle without actually opening a bottle. If somebody remembers the name of this, put it in comments for me. But it's this cool, like, $400 thing where it sticks a needle down in the cork, and then it pumps gas in and extracts out just enough for like a small pour. And then basically you replace it's an inert gas, so it doesn't affect the taste of the wine. And you pour, and as you pour, you replace that with gas. And then when you pull the needle back up, the cork just reseals around it. So now it's effectively never been opened. So it's a great way to drink really old or expensive bottles of wine that you don't want to open just for you. Corvino? No, that's a character from Underworld. I'll put it in there. Okay. Laura says she prefers chilled reds. Have you tried the sweeter ones, like Lambrusco? Because Lambrusco is supposed to be served chilled, and it's pretty tasty if you like sweet stuff. Okay, so that's that. And then this is another sort of pairing guide. This one's from Bright Cellars. You can find these things all over the internet. These just happen to come with my shipment. All right, let me move some stuff around here. You love Lambrusco? Yeah. When I discovered that, the cool thing about Lambrusco is it's cheap, like cheap. I think I found it in the supermarket for $6. And it's tasty. Although I don't like it as much anymore because I think my palate has matured so that I can taste more nuance. And when you can taste more nuance, you tend to be disappointed with the simpler wines, but that's not always true. Okay, what was next? I still have like glassware over here. Aerators. So earlier when I swirled, I was like, don't be afraid to be aggressive. Get the air in there. Really pull out all of the smells and the scents or the taste. So how can you do that if you're not going to swirl it in the glass? So there's some options for aerators. This is probably one of the most common ones. Vivino, is that what this is, Vivino? Anyway, it's this guy. This is just the base that it sits on. And this is really great for if you have an unfiltered wine, which I've had several of lately, like these really heavy Syrahs, and I've had to use this with them. Anyway, you just pour the wine through the top here, and air comes in through the side, and it mingles with the wine as it goes through, and when it comes out, it's exposed to oxygen. So supposedly you get more flavor out of it. I think that's true. I tend to aerate my wine all the time, so I don't have that much point of reference, but I generally think I enjoy it more when I have aerated the wine. So that's the one I use the most because it's the simplest to clean. It's the easiest to use. It has a little stand. It sits on my counter. It's super easy to clean. But sometimes you want something really fun. Or the big bottle of Lambrusco is like $10. Yeah, I know. Such a good deal. Such a good deal. At the supermarket where they jack up prices. Okay, so this one I got at Leal Vineyards out in California. And this looks like something a mad scientist would use. And it looks like, I'm going to put it on the bottle here for you. It looks like this. And when you pour it, I'm not going to do it. Well, I guess I will. Okay. So when you pour, can you see it coming down into the bowl? Okay, now you have, this has been aerated because as it went across the surface here, it's spread out. Does it make sense? So that it's, as a sheet, it's been exposed to air. Okay, so when I want to pour it, I just turn it sideways. It's this big, scary looking thing, but it's actually really fun. I don't use it a lot because now I have to run water through it to clean it, and I'm lazy. Now, another thing you do, if you want to decant an entire bottle of wine, decant meaning exposed to air, aerate, you can use one of these. There's all kinds of fancy glassware like this. These are harder to clean because I can't stick my hand down in here to clean it out. But basically, you pour the wine in, and as it goes all over the surface, it's exposed to air, more exposed to air because it's spreading thinner. And then you can leave it out for as long as you want. Some wines taste better after you've left them out for a few minutes. Some you can leave out for hours. So it just depends on the wine and how old it is and how complex it is, what experience you want to get from it. I almost never use this. I had to get on the ladder in my kitchen to pull this down because, again, it's too hard to clean. Laura says she needs this for her secret lab. I actually gave this as a present to 2 of my wine-loving friends because what do you get the wino who has everything? You get them a mad scientist aerator, of course. I don't know if Leal sells those on their website. I'll check, and if I can find it, I'll put a link in for that. It's just a really fun gift idea. Okay. So now let's talk about glasses. Oh, before I talk about glasses. Okay, let me take this guy back out. Oh. All right, so let's say you opened a bottle of wine, but you can't drink it all by yourself because your partner doesn't drink wine, and you really don't want to go a whole bottle in on a work night. You just want a glass to unwind. I feel you. That's me practically all the time. Maybe 2 if I really need to relax, but then I'm going to fall asleep. So this is what I have found works the best. It's inert gas, which is the same concept as that other tool that I can't remember the name of, and I'm going to kick myself because as soon as I stop this, I'm going to remember. This is inert gas, meaning it's not going to cause any reaction in the wine. And you just use some sort of a, it's going to be hard to do without a table, but I'll try. Oh, I better take this collar off first. Okay. So I like these little, this is a Houdini one. I don't know if you can see that. No, that's not working. Sorry. So this, Rabbit makes them, Houdini makes them. There's a bunch of stuff like this. You can find them anywhere. They're cheap. So this goes down the neck. And then it just takes a couple little pumps You pull it out. The gas mostly stays inside because it was trapped in there. And now the gas forms this layer here so that because it's heavier than oxygen. And so whatever air from your atmosphere got inside the bottle, this is going to sink below it because it's heavier. And now that it's inside there, the air can't contaminate this layer, this top layer of wine, because it's got the gas there instead, which doesn't interact with the wine. So I find that these are actually super helpful for making it last several days, like multiple days, probably up to a week is what I found. Now, you can also use those vacuum pumps to pump the oxygen out, but those don't put anything back in. So there's only so much you can pump out. So you do get a higher rate of decay on the wine with those. And with some wines, that's fine, because like a wine you might want to decant for 4 hours. Maybe you don't care if there's some oxygen in there. Maybe it'll taste better the next day. But most of the wines I drink, I don't want them exposed to air while I'm not drinking them because I'm going to drink them later. I want one bottle to last like a whole week. Okay, so that's how I seal my wine. Something to be aware of is that these will pop off. I've heard this weird popping sound. What is that sound? And then I look around and I can't figure it out. And the next day I find this randomly on the floor. So sometimes if you put too much of the air in, it'll pop it out, especially if it's hot. There's temperature changes outside. Okay. Speaking of inexpensive wines, this is one from Costco. This is a Cabernet Sauvignon from Costco. Well, Costco in wine country. I'm near San Francisco. And this, with the discount, they had like a half off, which is pretty consistent for them to have that for this particular wine. It's like $7. So you don't have to pay a lot for wine to have good wine. All right, glasses. Now, I was using this one. I don't know if you noticed what it says. It says, I heart books, booze, and fictional boys with tattoos. I've used this glass so much that it's actually wearing off. It was bright red before. I love this, and it's oversized. I mean, I could fit like half a bottle in here if I wanted, which I wouldn't because then I couldn't swirl it. But anyway, so I like stemless glasses for the most part because I have animals that like to knock things over. So this, what I just showed you, was stemless. It's just easier for me to hold. I can get a really good grip on it, as opposed to a stemmed glass would look like this. This is a pretty traditional wine glass. Most restaurants use this style unless it's super fancy. So you can tell the bowl is pretty similarly sized. The main difference is just this sits on the actual table, and this could tip over. These are easier to swirl sometimes because you can swirl them on a table surface like this instead of having to do this. But whatever works for you. And then with stem glasses, well, any glasses really, there's different sizes too. So like you can see, this came from a vineyard. Sometimes when you do a tasting, you get free glasses, which is fun. So this one's larger. Why would I use a larger glass or a smaller glass? Typically I use this size more for whites and this size more for reds. I feel like the reds taste better when they breathe more. Again, hitting more of the oxygen, letting those smells and taste out of the wine if you're going to drink it in the next like hour. Could you drink red wine out of this? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could drink red wine out of a tin cup, out of a red Solo cup. It doesn't matter, right? For me, it's about the experience, and I have certain glasses that I prefer with certain wines. I really want to take a little course on glassware and taste the differences, but that's my next evolution. And then, of course, there's champagne glasses, or Prosecco, if that's your preference. This is a stemless, and you can see it's like massively larger than this other one over here. These are actually engraved. I don't know if you can see this, but it says "Bite Me." I got this one from a Twilight Breaking Dawn release party. I think it was, I don't know if it was number 1 or number 2. I think it was Breaking Dawn 1. And you can actually etch this. It's acid. So it's an acid that you put on a stencil, and then you put the acid over the glass, and it just eats it away, and then you wipe it off, and you have a nice etched glass. It's super simple. I actually did etch this one myself, and it's just little hearts and stars in a swirly pattern. And then I have my initial S there. I think I bought a set of these. We had a wine club at work, and we did we had a craft club at work. We should have had a wine club at work. That would have been amazing. We had a craft club, and one of the meetings that I organized was etching glass. And so we all, I had these beer steins, stemless wine glasses, and you could pick whatever you wanted. And there was all these different patterns, and you could just etch your own glass. So I still have a couple of these. It was really fun and not that expensive. Okay, I'm almost done. You guys are hanging in there. Oh, Ty, my husband joined. You must be on BART on your way home. I heart you. I'm drinking. Okay, we talked about glasses. We talked about aerators. I'll put some links in here for this stuff so you guys can check it out if you want. Talked about how to keep your wine after opening it, which is very important if you're drinking alone. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. We talked about the cost of wine. I showed you my really cute socks. I'll show you again if you missed them because they're super cute. I'm sending a message right now. I think these came from Charming Charlie because of course they did, because all the cute stuff in my life lately comes from Charming Charlie. I feel like I've addicted a few people to this store just during this challenge. Okay. There's a documentary called Somm, and it's about the Master Sommelier exam. If you have not watched it and you have any interest in wine at all, you must watch this. It is both the most fascinating and hilarious thing I have ever seen. Hilarious because these guys are so dedicated. They are so dedicated, and they know a lot about wine. To become a Master Sommelier, you have to pass, I think there's 4 practical exams. There's probably a written exam, but there's like a service where you're like in a restaurant. You have to do all the service things. And apparently that one most people pass. There's a written one that I think most people pass. And then one of them, the hardest one, is the blind tasting. And when you watch it, basically the documentary, it follows these 4 or 5 people, mostly guys. I think there's one girl in there, who are trying to take this test. And it follows them in like the 8 months to a year before they're going to take the test and all the things that they do to prep for this thing. It is so cool. I know I need an affiliate code for Charming Charlie, for real. For real. But Somm is it's totally worth watching so you can get an idea of when you see somebody who's a Master Sommelier, like what exactly that means, like how much they know about wine, because it's unreal. The blind tasting, they're in a room with 3 or 4, I forget how many, glasses of wine, sort of like sample size, right? Taste size, smaller than this. And they have to know the type of grape it is, the region it came from, I don't know if they have to know the winery, the year, and some other specifics. I mean, like specific things. And it's baffling. So anyway, watch Somm if you get a chance because it's totally worth it. And there's a Somm 2, but it's more episodic. So it's like 10 stories about wine. And that's actually really interesting too, but it doesn't have the same like shock value fun factor that I think Somm does. I just love the guys that are in it. It's great. Okay. So I wanted to recommend a few books. This one is fantastic. It is my favorite book for learning about wine. And winefolly.com is actually also a really fantastic site. They have some great videos on how to clean a wine glass, how to swirl, like seriously, how to swirl wine. Because you think it'd be easy, but then you start to do it and you feel really awkward. And it's like, am I doing this right? I don't know. So no worries. Go check out the videos. They have some really cool stuff on there. They show you how to open a champagne bottle. They show you, I think they have a savoring video too for like savoring champagne, which I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to do that. That sounds very dangerous. But I will show you how to open champagne tomorrow because tomorrow is my last day. Tomorrow's my last day. So I'm super excited and I'm going to have a celebration champagne toast, I guess, with myself. Maybe you guys can drink with me. It's a little bit awkward. Maybe I can wait till someone's home, but Ty doesn't like champagne, so that won't work either. We'll figure it out. But I'm going to show you how to open wine. So using a regular cork with a wine key and different types of wine openers and champagne, because people get freaked out about champagne. They think it's going to pop off because in the movies they shake it and it's like, and there's mass destruction and the cork is popping everywhere. No, it's not that bad, guys. Like it's super easy and everybody should know how to open a champagne bottle. So I'll show you. I'll do one tomorrow. I'll show you how to do it safely and then I'll show you how to do it normal. Okay, so anyway, back to books. Wine Folly is a great book and it teaches you all the basic things. It does talk about pairings. There we go. It talks about styles of wine. What does that mean? What is light-bodied? What is full-bodied? Aromatic, rosé, medium-bodied red, all those things. Like, what does that mean, right? this talks about that. It also talks about the different grapes, speaking of Prosecco, and where they come from. Different places in the world you can find them, sweetness levels, how much you might pay for it, what type of glass is ideal, which I think is really neat. Dominant flavors, and those can vary by region, but at least you can see like what might be in the spectrum of, say, Prosecco. So Prosecco, it says green apple, honeydew melon, pear, honeysuckle, and cream. And whenever I don't know anything about a grape, this is my go-to. I'm like, okay, I need to look up Syrah, find Syrah, right? Like what is Tempranillo? And sometimes you'll find that, this is not one I was thinking it was, but sometimes you'll find that one name is just a different way is one culture's way of calling the same grape, grown obviously in different regions. But like Tempranillo is Rioja. And there's like multiple other things here I'm not gonna attempt to pronounce because that would be embarrassing. Port. What is port? How is it different from wine? I like port now. I didn't always like port. When we lived in Gerald, which is just outside of Austin, there was this great little winery called Divine Wine. I don't think they're there anymore. I think it's a chain, but this was like a local version of the chain. And they had a chocolate cherry port, and it was like drinking chocolate covered cherries. It was fantastic. And I've never had a port that sweet since then. And I kind of want more of that. It talks about the different regions. Like here's Australia and where you can find the different grapes and what type of grapes you can expect, the flavors you can expect from the region, and how the climate affects the taste of the grape. Anyway, I'll stop talking about this book. I've been on that for a while. I did want to recommend a romance book that is wine related. It took me a little bit of digging to find one of these because I haven't read a lot of them, but this one I know of because I met Pamela Ayres when I was traveling to RWA. She's from this area, so she lives in wine country. She's like legit understands wine. So she has a series called Tavonesi. I'm going to totally butcher it. It's Tavonesi. And it's basically baseball and vineyards. How awesome is that? Baseball and wine. What? That's great. The first one is called Love Bats Last. She may have a promotion, so check Amazon. You might be able to find it as a freebie or on sale. But check it out. See if you like it. I think it's just a cool concept. Pairing the romance of wine country with the excitement of a sport like baseball. So anyway, that's fun. And that is all I have for today. I think that was kind of a long one. And now I have work to do, more things to do. I wanted to do this while I still had light because it would be like 9 o'clock and dark and you couldn't see my glasses. So anyway, that's it. Thank you guys for tuning in today. Shannon does not like brut wine. That's okay. I'll take the brut. I like it. You can have the sweet stuff. So tune in tomorrow for my final day of my Facebook Live challenge and learn how to open a bottle of champagne. In the meantime, I hope you find something fun to read and enjoy your Wednesday night. The week is already half over. It's already half over. You're almost there. Bye, guys.